and it's doing it. You've got that so that I'm not really in it, though, if you notice where the picture is. Yes.
You're live on YouTube, and now you are live on Facebook.
Good morning. This is the last chapter of Tziksumnedeb, the 3 words that strike the heart by Garab Dorje. This is a continuation of the last couple of days' teachings. If you missed them, you really should listen to the recording in order to make sense of today's, which will also be recorded. We seem to have worked out some of the technological bugs this morning, so we are up on Facebook as well as YouTube, and we'll see how long that lasts. Chuku kunduzang bogombo dorji sempa garab dorji dang shere singu badu shin labdi dedam abzan tata tusunchi Dzogchen jupe lama la solua Again, Pema Junela Solwa de Dorji Chang Chitilo Narodang Marpa Mila Gompo Tatapa Na Pupadang Palden Drupa So Kargula Manamla Solwa O Chen Lama Namla Solwa De Nru Chen Lama Namla Solwa De Shak Chen Lama Namla Solwa Yondrung Nang Indulama Namla Solwa De Pa Kondu Shang Dang Yerme Pa Gun Garab Dorje Shin Trad Pa Jeti Dang Nisume Pa Pa Lamanam Che Tente The first word is tawa. To recognize your own true nature is the first vital point. Tawa is what we call it. Just to have something to call it. It's called a lot of things. Semyi, real mind, true mind, big mind. Chuku, Dharmakaya, nature of mind. Chini, great mother ocean of Dharmakaya. Mother luminosity of ground. All of this refers to the totality of yourself. Not the little bitty limited you that walks about in the day and has hang-ups, personality, belief systems, thoughts, hopes, fears, and is continuously, compulsively obsessing with stuff, this and that, obsessing with objects, obsessing with what you think the objects are and what you think about the objects, obsessing with how you feel about that stuff, phenomena. That's your obsession. You compulsively pay attention to that and no attention to the totality of the attention payer. So you miss it. Oops. And by missing it, you limit yourself to being less than you could be. Much, much, much less. Limited by the language in which you think, the culture which has told you how a good man or woman should feel, the theories and belief systems that you have been brought up with, your hang-ups, your neuroses, your limitations. That's all you ever pay attention to. How's that going for you? Really? Try something else. Pick a thought, any thought, and follow it home to the thinker, your own mind. Not what you think about your mind, not how you feel about your mind. Just behind the perception of your mind is something bigger than a sensory perception could possibly be, even if perceived with the yi, your sixth sense organ. But you start there. So by following the teachings of body to align your channels and unfocus your eyeballs, you learn, you develop the ability to unfocus your attention from all the little bits of this and that you normally obsess with into the vast, open spaciousness, the infinite vast expanse of the ground of mind itself. This is awareness settling into itself. The seer seeing the seer. Open awareness, Rigpa. It's not even that difficult. And when you are settled into the direct perception of the infinite vast expanse, the great mother ocean of mind itself, that perception, pop it. Pet. For an instant, if you are looking right at that perception, if your attention is settled into the perception of mind itself rather than what mind is thinking, feeling, or perceiving, and you pop that very perception right behind it, right where that was covering your vision and having you only see the limitation of your own perception, tawa, hetewa, unobscured infinite openness without even the hair of concept, without even a motive feeling or a singular moment of perception. Beyond time and space in always wasness, always will be-ness. That's who you really are. Of course, you're going to quick cover it up again with your habitual obsession with things that come and go, such as thoughts, feelings, and perceptions, which are all moving. So, Gampa, the second word. To decide on one single thing is the second vital point. Gampa, the meditation of Dzogchen Trekche, is simply to return your attention again and again to Tawa, Just that. Again and again and again. At all times and on all occasions, recognize the already noticed tawa, Dharmakaya nature of mind. This is the doing which is done until mother and child luminosity unite. Child luminosity is this tawa that you have been shown by the teacher, that you are returning your attention to again and again. Mother luminosity of ground is outside of time, outside of space. We sometimes call it the fourth time, where tawa can neither be gained nor lost, but pervades all phenomena. When that happens, sopa is understood. I have seen the word sopa, the third word of Garab Dorje, translated in different ways. I've seen it translated as action, but it's not something you do. It's not an action. I have seen it translated as conduct, but it's not a specific set of behaviors. So I don't think either one of those translations comes anywhere near. Let's just call it sopa. So you don't have to try to use a word you already know that has meanings which doesn't mean this. It's easier to put in a new word than to change the meaning of words you already know and are quite sure of the meaning of. You know what conduct is. It's how you behave, how you should behave, how you shouldn't behave, morality. Nuh-uh, that's not sopa. You know what action means. You perform actions. You go, you get something to eat, you refill your coffee cup. These are all actions. You go to the store, it's an action. Nuh-uh, that's not what sopa means. Got nothing to do with those. You might say the spontaneous arising action of non-action, or the spontaneous arising occurrence of non-action. I'm going to say that for sopa. Spontaneously, automatically, sundra, arising occurrence of non-action. You want a one word for it? Let's call it occurrence, automatic, spontaneous occurrence. Nah, not even quite right, because occurrence assumes that something happens and it had some stuff that led up to it and it's going to have a sequelae afterwards. Like if I were to knock over my coffee cup, it would be because I wasn't paying attention. There would be cause. And there would certainly be a result of I'd get coffee all over my text, which might even run, and it's my only copy, because I don't know what I did with the other copies. So that would be an occurrence. Not quite. Closer than the others, but not a banana. Very small print. If you do not have confidence in the way of liberation, if you haven't made this decision and are sure of it, to decide on one point is one thing is the second vital point. If you haven't decided on Dzogchen and decided to go for it with all of your umpha, it won't work. That decision matters. In fact, it is the key of the meditation practice of Dzogchen. You have to decide to do it. For example, mowing the lawn. It's not going to do itself. I have a lawn out back that is awaiting for me to get around to it. Someone once gave me a whole bunch of little round to-its, but they never helped. So that's still waiting. Until I actually, in the moment, decide to do it, it's not going to happen. Nobody's going to do it for me. Mostly because the way I like it done and what gets cut down and what doesn't, I'm the only one who knows that. I'm the gardener when I'm gardening. So, what the hell is a Mayowa? Person who wrote in, please clarify. So, unless I make a decision to do that, I'm not going to do it. If I don't do it, the grass isn't going to get cut down. Dzogchen's like that. If you don't decide to do the doing, you never get to the not doing. The spontaneously arising occurrence, which is not done, sopa. You won't get there without the doing, the decision to do the practice of Gam. This should be, as I've been beaten on it for a while, becoming obvious to you. Now, if Dzogchen isn't right for you, if you don't like it, then decide to do something else. 84,000 different practices taught by only Gautama Buddha, not even counting the previous Buddhas, some of which are still around in living lineages. Pick the one you like. But if you like Dzogchen, if this is what you want, you're going to have to make that decision. And then you're going to have to decide it in such a way, keep deciding it. Every day. Today I will practice Gam. Today I will practice Gam. Now I will sit for a while. You see? That's how it needs to be done. It's utterly simple. Sopa. Let's try this. I'm going to hold a piece of paper up to the camera. I want you to look at it with your eyes without reading the word written on it. I'm using two cameras. 99% of you overeducated Westerners couldn't do that. This analogy does not work with Tibetans. How long did it take you to be able to be to the point where you couldn't not read the written word if it was in front of your eyes? So you started learning to read somewhere around 3 with the books that your parents read you and you played with, and maybe they ran their fingers under it. By the time you hit middle school, what age do they hit middle school?
Let's see, that's 6th through grade, so about 12, 10, 12.
Yeah, by the time you're about 12
11.
years old,
Yeah.
you've reached this point where you can't look at a street sign and not read it. So 12 minus 3 is 9, took you 9 years. Maybe, I mean, you may have reached this point where you couldn't not read stuff when you were 5. So, you got 9 years? Some of you probably do. You can do it. You need about the same amount of time that it takes you to come from the point to being unable to read to the point where you can't not read a word in front of your eyes. Probably going to notice this when you're trying to fuzz out your eyes, like in meditation, not fuzz out, but like relax your lens so that you're not focused on a point focus. It's really hard to do if your text happens to be right where your eyes fall. I always have to put something over my text or turn it upside down if I decide to do that while looking at a text. Because the moment there's a written word in front of me, I can't not read. Of course, I'm one of those compulsive readers that snowed in a cave in the Himalayas, was reading my toothpaste tube repeatedly just for something to read. Some of us are like that. Irregardless, the same way you learn to be unable to not read, you learn to be unable to not notice tawa. You've done it once, you can do it again. However long and much practice it took you to learn to read is what it's going to take to get so sopa makes perfect sense to you. You can do it completely within your reach. This is not something that only the great tulkus and the high lamas can do. You can do it too, you just gotta practice, that's all it is. A lot of people intend to practice, they intend to practice Gam tomorrow, later. After I finish checking my Twitter account. The thing about the decision to practice is it has to pervade the now. Practice at all times and on all occasions. Notice the already recognized Dharmakaya nature of mind, tawa. That specifically is Gam. Tawa, Gompa, Sopa, the three words. Now on to Sopa. Without Sopa, which is what allows you to meditate while thinking. Not instead of thinking, you start with instead of thinking. But it's got to expand to include thinking, because when are you having a tizzy fit? You're in the middle of thinking and feeling and emoting, right? You're reactive, you're reacting. This is this reaction according to our neuroses that we're trying to overcome, among other things. That's one of the big bits. Reacting according to the old patterns of your neuroses. So if you were abused once, you're going to see it everywhere, and you're going to react to abuse even when there ain't none. Oh yeah? So, by the process of Gam, when it moves from only without thought naturally, you can't make it do this, to with thought, or rather that results from the use of pet, but you can't force it too soon. You can't miss tawa. You can read while walking and talking. You can read a street sign even while driving. Like that. Can't miss it. Can't not do it. Sopa can't not happen. At that time, lust or anger, happiness or sorrow, de tse chak tang, ge dung dang. La tang nan tok malupa. All your suddenly arising thoughts without exception. All the written words that pass before you, there's nary a one of them you can't not read. All your thoughts, while they're happening, you see what they're made of. You see in tawa, as tawa. the spontaneous arising and dissolving of thoughts while it happens. This is not the same as thinking it arises and dissolves spontaneously right after it happened. That was a thought, which also arises and dissolves spontaneously in its moment of happening. See that. Ngo sheng nang la sedume. In recognition, there is no continuity. Remember me talking yesterday about how you need to disconnect what hooks your thoughts together? I called it putting your mind in neutral gear. Guru Rinpoche calls it shunting aside the sluice gate of your water wheel. You don't have a water wheel, but you do have a car. Same difference. Still turning over, river's still flowing, but it's not turning the wheel because you shunt aside the sluice gate. You put it in neutral, the gears aren't engaged. This disconnection that you do as a practice, it feels as if you're doing it. Once you reach Sopa, once Sopa is part of your practice, they're all like that. Thoughts don't have books on them. They have absolutely no substance. Look at them. Each single one arises and vanishes. You create the seeming illusion of continuity of thinking by your belief systems, habit patterns, karmic proclivities, geks and parches. Really, it's not natural for thoughts to stick together. You stick them together, it's actually a doing. Sopa involves not refraining from that doing because I'm refraining from taking a sip of coffee. No, not like that. Not bothering with that doing. Different from refraining. I'm not bothering to mow the lawn yesterday or this morning. I'm talking to you instead. I'm not refraining from mowing the lawn. I'm just not bothering to go deal with it. I may not bother to go deal with it today or tomorrow. I mean, it's not that important. When you recognize a thought while it happens, in tawa as tawa, there is no way for that nam talk, discursive thinking to occur. Thoughts still happen. In a dream, when you dream, if you happen to remember one of those dreams that really does not line up in any linear way whatsoever, and they're harder to remember than the more linear ones, it appears during the dream that everything is proceeding in a logical pattern together. There's a continuity apparent while dreaming, and when you wake up and look back on that dream in your memory, what continuity? You were eating an apple, but it was a snail, but you were a snail? Where's the continuity in that? Were you an apple eating a snail or a snail eating an apple? Doesn't make much sense, but that was the dream. No continuity. But in the dream, it seemed to have a great deal of continuity. This is an analogy. Before you actually grok zopa, sopa, not zopa. Zopa is patience. Before you actually grok sopa. Everything seems to have a vast amount of continuity. In the recognition of sopa, it never did, because you woke up. Is this starting to make a little sense? For me, in my practice history, this was always the hardest one to understand, especially by Tibetan analogies. So I'm giving you some Western analogies to work with, Western ways of thinking to come at this at. It's not a way of thinking. In reality, which is tawa, thoughts do not have continuity. Like writing on water with your finger, no mark is left. Like the track of a bird across the sky, there is no path created in emptiness as emptiness. Yesterday at 3 p.m., what exactly were you thinking? What happens to us confused sentient beings is generally in the bilbla, the entanglement of our thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. We pretend it's all real and outside of us. This is the result of the oopsie of duality. Kuntu Zangpo, in the moments of arising, in between each moment of existence, perceiving the rainbow-colored lights of form and phenomena as they are rainbow-colored lights of form and phenomena. The scintillating shimmer of his own mind remains unignoranted. A Buddha. Us sentient beings perceiving the rainbow-colored lights that scintillate as the awareness, the clear light nature of our own mind is fragmented by the prism of awareness. Think all those pretty rainbows are out there somewhere, and like a kitten with a laser pointer, or a baby who sees a rainbow projected from mama's engagement ring on the wall, tries to reach out and grab it. Action. Karma. In the wanting, which results in the grabbing, karma is created, and the forms and functions of the rainbow-colored lights, which are simply the light of your own mind, the clear light nature of Dharmakaya, fragmented by the Sambhogakaya nature of awake lucid awareness, from transparent light into the multiple colored lights of the rainbow, but it's still the same thing. It's in Dharmakaya arising in awake aliveness. Multiple colors, forms, functions. It's not out there, but you think it is, so you grab at it. Or you get scared of it and run the other way, both of which create karmas, and so the experience proliferates as a result of the karmas again and again, and you end up full of pugchaws and gigs. Oh. And so we trap ourselves in samsara. This didn't happen once upon a time long, long ago. This is happening right now. In between each single moment beyond time and space, where the true nature of mind pervades without birth or death, coming or going. Behind every moment, between every moment, Tawa, always. In every moment, Tawa, always. That's Sopa. Latong nantok malupa ngoshe nang la tsedume. All the suddenly arising thoughts, whatever the thought is, without exception. No, you're never going to find a real one. You're going to try. You're going to send me lots of emails that go, is it like this? Is it like this? Is it like this? No, it's not like anything. Keep trying to find the right way to think about it, and there isn't any. Give it up. Let go. All the suddenly arising thoughts, if you see them for what they are as they arise, there is no, never was any, cannot be any continuity. How do you recognize them? By seeing, being, tawa, while thinking. Chuku ngotu pa penechula rimoshin rangsha rangtru chungche me. By recognizing the liberated Dharmakaya. The Dharmakaya has never been confused, nor has Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya. This is the body, speech, and mind of all Buddhas. Hung. No, body, speech, mind. Om, ah, hung. The seed syllables that rest in the heart, throat, and forehead chakra, if you're into Tantra or Rusha. By recognizing the liberated Dharmakaya, for example, like drawing on water, there is no discontinuity in self-arising and self-liberating. There is no difference. Rinpoche used to give an example. I never quite got it, but people really loved it, so I'll pass it on to you. When there's some guys walking in the hot weather, and they have oranges, some of them don't have oranges, and they begin to peel and eat the oranges, and the guys who don't have the oranges smell the oranges, and they drool. The smelling of the oranges and the drooling from the mouth is simultaneous. That was Rinpoche's analogy. Perhaps it was one of his own personal experiences. You smell it, you drool. The point being that thoughts, a single nam talk, discursive thoughts, thoughts that talk to themselves, think of it that way. A single point of nam has no duration. It's easier to see that they have no substance, but you're accustomed to thinking that they actually have duration. Nuh-uh. Little tiny ones get stuck together in Namtalk and tell a story. But they aren't really stuck together, they just seem that way. No thought can have duration. It is not the nature of thinking. Even feelings, although the effect on the body of the chemicals released by feelings may have duration, the feeling itself usually needs to be repeatedly as in codependent, repeatedly stroked and cherished by continuously telling yourself the story, what you're feeling that about. However, once a feeling has released physical chemicals, those are there until they wear off. We use this knowledge in working with feelings, but that's a different teaching. So understand that whatever thoughts arise, thoughts of desire, anger, jealousy, all of the thoughts that support and are entwined with and part of all of the feelings of the 5 poisons, all these are your path. These are the ones to see. Look, a little pile of wood makes a little bitty flame. But if you have a big pile of firewood, you're going to get a big, big flame. The more intense the thought you can see the nature of while thinking it, the more intense the feeling embroiled in that set of thoughts that you can see the nature of while it's happening, the further the power of that has to push you in the improvement of your practice. More gas to step on. More cylinders in the engine. These are all analogies. The firewood one was traditional. Size matters. The bigger the thought pattern embroiled with the emotion and set of perceptions that you are able to see the nature of in the moment while it's happening, the deeper your meditation will go. So practice while shit's flying. Don't try to avoid life. You don't need to. In the middle of all the crap and flowers, if you can practice there, cool, fast path, you got a rocket ship between your legs. Now, in the beginning, you need some retreat. Back off from life. You can't do this when you're first starting. You don't yet have the skill. You shouldn't get on a big old Harley when you're just learning to steer a motorcycle. Start with a little 250 Honda. Get so you kind of can handle it and you get the balance, even if it's only for a few days. Then try the Harley. Fair enough? Start by making retreat. Start by simplifying your life. Finish by walking back out into it. Chechirikton senpedza, sechurchuku silpo sal. Whatever arises is food for the naked, empty awareness. All the crap. All the flowers. Whatever happens, it is all procession from the supreme Dharmakaya. Chuku Rigpa. The Dharmakaya itself is awake and aware. And as such, the clear light nature of Dharmakaya shimmers, sparkles with phenomena. You want to see that? Practice until you can't not see it any more than you can not read a written word. You train your thoughts to include, no, that's a mistranslation. I was looking at the translation, not the text. You train your attention to be aware of tawa and thought simultaneously. By doing so, you will notice that thoughts arise and dissolve simultaneously. There's no duration between the arising and the dissolving. The arising is the dissolving. They lack duration. Don't take my word for this crap. Go look for yourself. You'll see it. Practice. So however strong the emotion embroiled with the thought, or the perception embroiled with the thought, that you are able to practice in, that strong will be your meditative awareness. Whatever occurs, phenomena, whatever occurs, perceptions, thoughts about how those perceptions are happening, pretend stories, feelings about the stories, whatever is occurring, it's all the procession of the sparkle of the Dharmakaya. Every thought, every feeling, every perception without exception. So stop trying to find a real one. No. Well, go ahead, try to find a real one for a while. Eventually you'll notice ain't none. Simirangdak alala. Without imprint and self-purifying. Oh, how wonderful. You don't have to fix it. That's the cool part. Sopa's not a doing. Sopa is always present. It is the true nature of thinking, feeling, and perceiving. But it's not how you think you think. It's not how you feel. And it's not how you perceive you perceive. Those are illusions. They arise in mind and they dissolve in mind, and they never had any reality outside of mind. Salungaradang Trawala. The way of arising of thoughts is like the previous, like an ordinary sentient being. Troluk Chipar Neduchi. The difference is in how they are liberated. When you are not looking at Tawa while thinking, your thoughts will catch you up in them, create an entire edifice, and cause you to react to what you think is happening because you believe your thoughts are real. Oops. So look at Tawa while thinking. That's all. Rest in Tawa as Tawa, not Lena, there Tawa. Tawa's out here somewhere. Nuh-uh. No, don't do that. Rest in Tawa as Tawa at all times and on all occasions while thinking, feeling, and perceiving. That is Gom. That is the practice. Which leads to Sopa, which is not new and always has been present. You just didn't notice. The yogi's thought is liberated in the moment of arising because the yogi sees that that is so. He doesn't make it so. Sees that that is so. The ordinary person does not see that that is so. And so they form attachments, thought chains, stories, mind pictures, feelings about the mind pictures until it gets big enough that you gotta do something about it. Yeah, well, don't do that. Watch. Do not fight yourself to refrain from action. We're not talking about this. This is not like some kind of special way of behaving. If you got an itch, scratch it. Why not? But while you scratch, see Tawa. At all times and on all occasions. Notice the previously recognized Dharmakaya nature of mind. Gone. It is the nature of thoughts to self-liberate. You don't have to fix them. You just need to watch. Be Tawa while thinking, and it becomes obvious that they do that. That's Sopa. Being able to meditate, but not having Sopa, not having seen, recognized Sopa, it's like the Dhyani of the gods. It is a doing meditation. It won't free you. It'll just improve things until the improvement wears off, and then they're going to get all fucked up again. That's the way of the circles and the wheel. Up to the God realms and down to the hells and all the gray places in between. This is for when you're tired of that. Out, not up. looking for a particular analogy in here that I think is going to be useful. Come on. It'll turn up. Knowing meditation but not sopa, get you trapped in a God realm. If your meditation lacks these essential points of the way of liberation and confidence, is placed only in indwelling, thought-free samadhi, in a mind-made meditation, you will miss the exit and land in the God realms. Just to recognize stillness and movement of Mahamudra and rest in the stillness is not enough. Trultra Naljur is necessary. The yoga of dancing stillness. We've just moved into Mahamudra for you Mahamudra folk who are coming to Dzogchen, where it ties in. The yoga of dancing stillness, where you see the movement as stillness and the stillness as movement. That's how Mahamudra talks about this, Sopa. So without this, meditation is just a way of delusion. You're fooling yourself. Deme gompa truena lam. Don't fool yourself. Recognize Sopa. Arising, liberating, self-liberating, denuded liberation. You can name it lots of things, but it is a simple matter of seeing, noticing the self-liberation of thoughts that occurs when seeing, being tawa while thinking. Gotta learn it. How do you learn it? Why, by at all times and on all occasions, both on the cushion to get deeper and off the cushion at all times, recognizing the already seen Dharmakaya nature of mind. Notice tawa while doing stuff, which will, of course, include thinking, feeling, perceiving. Practice that. This is of vital significance, that all thoughts are self-liberating, purified without a trace. You must reveal this self-liberation to yourself. It is the extraordinary teaching of Dzogchen. If you have got this vital point, whatever defilement and thoughts arises, whatever crap goes on in your life, and however you think and feel about it, seeing this Deten magom chukunang. Even non-meditation is Dharmakaya. This is where GOM itself is transcended. But you can't make that happen. Wait for it. Practice GOM and wait for it. Practice exactly according to the instructions. You can listen to these tapes many times to become clear on what the instructions are. You can ask questions to become clear on that. I get to my email eventually. If you do not develop confidence in Sopa by your own experience, not by just hearing about it from a lama, no matter how deep your meditation is or how high your philosophical understanding, it won't work. You're gonna still be stuck in samsara. Oops. Whereas if you grasp the crucial point of this self-arising, self-liberating, if you actually get it, Deko nanyam lene du, establishing certainty by your own experience is the third vital point. Sopa. You practice seeing Tawa while thinking again and again at all times and on all occasions until you're absolutely sure that all thoughts, feelings, and perceptions, without exception, rise in Tawa as Tawa and dissolve in Tawa, having neither substance, duration, nor reality. Being sure 'cause I said so is pure crap. You get sure 'cause you saw it. If a man, this is a Tibetan analogy, if a man were to go to an island that was entirely made of gold, he would be unable to find a pebble that was not made of gold. If you actually get Sopa, you will be unable to find a single thought that has duration or substance, because they don't. But have a look for yourself. These three essential points, Tawa, Gompa, and Sopa, and their result, which is a state of unimpeded awareness, what we often call open awareness. That's your natural state. You're just all scrunched up and crumpled on account of all this stuff you want and all the stuff you're scared of. Anxiety crumples you. You're scared you won't get what you want. You're scared that what you don't want is going to get you. It crumples you. You're like, yeah. Relax. Take a deep breath. Tawa. See mind with mind. Gompa, always. Sopa, see how the arisings arise in mind and dissolve in mind, and we're never anything other than mind, and mind itself is no thing at all. So there is nothing to be afraid of. Relax. Allow yourself to uncrumple. Your crumples, your little scrunchy bits, those are karmas held in your channels. By relaxing in GOM meditation, less meditation, you give them the chance to relax and unravel. And damn, it feels good. This is the bliss. The bliss states, pop them. You don't want to get stuck in a bliss state, pleasant though it is. Go on through. You can get here by learning, it says. That would be Madhyamika philosophy, Oma Chenbo. There's even a Dzogchen aspect of it called it'll come to me. I'm just a simple cave yogi. I can't remember all the fancy words. So Tawa has actually 3 parts to it, because it all dissolves into mind looking in the end. Because there's nowhere else to look. It's all mind. In the beginning, like a mountain torrent, bouncing from rock to rock, break everything that you think is a meditation that you have acquired. In the middle, like the flow of the vast Ganges River, smooth, calm to the sea. In the end, the infinite vast ocean. There's an analogy given of a snake coiled in front of you. So you're sitting, you come out of meditation, you look around and you notice that there's a poisonous cobra coiled in front of you. Not a terribly unusual occurrence in India. I think they come for the warmth. What do? Nothing. Don't poke the snake. He's going to get hungry and wander off eventually. He's going to get cold. Something's going to interest him. Leave him alone. He'll crawl off. So, this is talking about practice. What you don't want to do in practice is poke your mind into agitation by trying too hard. Nor do you want to not try a bit. Find your comfortable midline. It's there. You can do it. understand that Tawa is not separate from Ninji. It is the Dorje and bell come together. It is the union of method, the dance, the Pawo, the Daka, the dance of form in emptiness as emptiness. This is the union of Pawo and Khandro, of Yab and Yum. This is the by its bootstraps of all Buddhas of the 4 times, assisting each other and themselves in multiplicity to arise as all Buddhas of the 4 times, which is singular in nature. Are there questions?
Oh, yeah.
Let's go with some of them for a while.
More questions about Pe. When a perception obscures the true seeing, is that the time to use Pe?
Say more. What do you mean by a perception? You mean by your dog comes and sits on your lap and it gives you physical sensations? Yeah, Pe might get your dog off your lap. It works on cats.
And in a similar line, so when you see and feel the vastness, do you give it a Pe? Because it's a phenomena and Tawa is right behind it?
Yes. The vastness, you're feeling it. It's a feeling. You weren't feeling it before. You're feeling it now. It's going to go away again. So it's not the real one. The real one doesn't come and go. It's a mind-made image of Tawa. You feel it. You perceive it. You see it. Puppet. And for a moment, no thing whatsoever. Neither seer nor seen. Next.
A couple of questions on recommendations for how to practice while bound to the burdens of karmic vision, Western lifestyle, job, family.
Yes, practice while you're doing all that. How? By noticing Tawa. Have a session first, in the morning. Get your Tawa noticement really clear. If it turns up as a feeling, a perception, an idea, pop it with pet, look right behind it. All day. While you're doing stuff. Especially in intense moments. Check and see if Tawa went away or if it's still there. Develop the habit. Eventually you'll notice Sopa. And be sure of it.
A couple of questions about the root text. I posted links to the Lotsawa House text on YouTube and thought they had been posted into Facebook. But can you talk a bit about Crystal Cave and why that's also a good text?
Now there's 2 crystal caves. One is the name of a book.
Yeah, that's the one Martin sent.
Which includes a copy of, it includes many Dzogchen texts, including the text Crystal Cave, but it also includes Patrul Rinpoche's commentary on Sixumnadep. I don't know if it's my favorite translation because it was one of the early ones and I got used to it. but I've always liked it a lot. Now, wasn't there one that had the Tibetan and the English?
That was the Lotsawa House link. That's what got posted.
Okay, so just go stick it up on Facebook too.
Okay, will do.
That's a decent one because it's got the Tibetan. So if something doesn't sound right or puzzles you, go look up the Tibetan syllables and see what it actually said in Tibetan. The English there is nice. They've made it a bit poetic. I read through that the other night, or skimmed it. It seems like a pretty good translation. Translators always argue because there isn't a one-to-one correspondence. So for the text, which you now should be quite happy to read, have at it. Realize it is a translation. That's why I like including the Tibetan. Next question.
What are pagchas and geks?
Pagchas are karmic formations. Geks are literally glitches, I guess. Imps. They're not exactly sentient, but they sometimes feel like they are. They're caught in your channels, where certain things you sabotage every time because you know you can't do that right. And so there's squeakies in the channels, frizzy bits, but they're also imps, little annoying little demons that nibble on things. And parchi means hindrance, and they are considered to be karmic formations, which are also to be found in your channel, in your energy body.
Is there a historical reason why Dzogchen was a secret practice?
It still is. Those of you who are not appropriate for Dzogchen won't understand a word I've said in these couple of days. It is self-secret. Also, it can be misunderstood dangerously. It can slide into nihilism, laziness, and other excuses. However, pretty much anything can so. One of my own teachers, the way they put it, Dzogchen is about a man's own true nature. How could you possibly hold a man's own true nature secret from him? You haven't the right. Teach it freely. Those who have a chance of understanding it will come forth and understanding it. It is self-secret. Those who are not attracted to it will not bother to come forth and wouldn't have understood if they did. So it is taught by request, it's put out there, but it's not appropriate for everyone. And those for whom it's inappropriate won't like it. That's why I keep telling you, if you don't like this teaching, then go do a different one. It's self-secret. Some lineages feared it greatly. They feared that it would be an excuse for abandoning morality. And in fact, those who wish to abandon morality can use it as an excuse. Although, to be honest, those who wish to abandon morality are just gonna do so whether they have an excuse or not, so what the fuck? Next.
Is it possible for you to talk about your own experience on this meditation? Was it a long process?
Oh, hell yeah. 30, 40 years. Traveling with my teacher, translating for my teacher, translating this teaching hundreds of times, maybe even thousands. It was his favorite one. Oh, he gave others, but this was his favorite. Whenever anybody said, well, what do you want to teach? He'd always say this one. Tibetans enjoy hearing familiar teachings again and again. It reassures them. Westerners aren't like that. They always want something new. If you want to give a new teaching to a Tibetan, you hide it inside an old one, like making a sandwich. If you want to give an old teaching to a Westerner, because they've already had it, but they didn't get it, you sandwich it between two new teachings, or at least change the title. People got tired of Dzogchen, so I have been teaching it as beginning, intermediate, and advanced Dzogchen. It was the same teaching. It's probably up on the website. Because if I said Dzogchen, they'd say, oh, we had that. Westerners are very fond of new things. Next.
What does this particular practice advise for working with dream yoga or the deep sleep state?
Sleep in tawa. Dream in tawa. At all times and on all occasions includes while dreaming. Tawa. Luminosity of tawa. Clear light nature of Dharmakaya is open awareness. The light by which the seer sees, the awakeness by which the awareness is awake. Dream the symbols of the Sambhogakaya nature of mind. Enjoy.
Next, as we practice, does that moment of tawa then become more all-pervading?
Yes, that's exactly what happens. You begin with frequent random disconnected moments and quick glances without trying to push the river or poke at the snake coiled in front of you. You keep doing that until at some point it's always there. The effort of glancing is no longer necessary. Don't stop. Continue to refresh tawa on your meditation seat. Continue to, it's almost like when you have kids, toddlers, and you're a mom and you actually gave birth, you've got this sort of kid awareness that develops unless you're under extreme stress, where you kind of always have one eye and one ear on the kid, regardless of what's going on. It gets like that, like kid sense. You can always sense tawa, no matter what's going on. It's like while driving. Here's another analogy for those of you who aren't mamas, who haven't given birth. I don't know if this happens to dads too. I think it depends on the culture and how they're relating to fatherhood. It happens to some dads They get this kid sense where they're just always aware of the kid, regardless of what else they're doing. When you're driving, you can talk, eat, do all sorts. I've even seen people try to read while driving. But you've still got an eye on the road. You see the road. Gets like that with practice. Now, when you're driving, you'll notice that your eyes are not steady on the road. They flick. Where's my chips? Flick. Drink. Flick. So that's a stage you pass through. It gets more like kid sense, where it's just like always there. You're always aware of it. You can't not be. Depending on how well you decided to practice, how much gonzo you have for it will simply depend on how fast this happens. It can happen fast, it can happen slow, it'll happen when it happens. You can't really force it, you just keep going. When you're on your seat in the morning or in the evening, or if you have the opportunity to make retreat during the day, and you get a mind-made meditative experience. They're called nyams. Pop it with pet. Like that. Next.
Someone wanted a review of the Tibetan terms. You covered Tawa and Nam and Yam recently, but they also wanted just a quick repeat of Rigpa, Hedawa, Sopa, Gampa, and I think Ninji was the other term.
Ninji. Ning, heart. Chi, greatest, most superlative. Great-heartedness. I have heard it translated into English as compassion, which is maybe kind of sort of close, but great-heartedness, open-heartedness is a lot closer. It's the way you feel about kittens. When a Tibetan sees a kitten, the word that falls out of their mouth as an exclamation is "Oh, Ninji," heart opening. That feeling you get when you put a purring baby kitten on your heart chakra. Oh, Ninji. Not nearly as intellectual as compassion. What other words?
Hedawa?
Hetewa, utter
Hetewa.
blankness, no thing whatsoever. Next.
Sopa.
The spontaneous nature of discontinuity. I just spent 2 hours explaining Sopa.
Yeah.
The third word of Garab Dorje. Next.
Gampa is the last one.
Meditation, that's easy. The specific meditation of Dzogchen, sitting in Tawa as Tawa, that is Gampa. Or Gom.
A couple of questions about pay with a group. If you experience a nyam but cannot use pay to pop it because you're in a group setting, do you just ignore it, let it dissolve itself? What do you do?
Just let it dissolve itself. It's your excuse to enjoy the bliss states when they happen.
I have a mantra commitment but would like to practice Dzogchen only. Can I be released from that, at least for now?
Discuss that with me privately over email. It's not a one size fits all. It will depend on more knowledge, so let me know what your mantra commitment is. And we'll talk about that.
I resonate to the topic of sabotage. How do I deal with it?
Do you mean self-sabotage, or
I
you
believe
want to
so.
go out there and blow up some cop cars?
I think the self-sabotage you were referring to earlier when we were talking about Gex and Pakchas.
Now it's a sticky wicket, because you're likely to sabotage your meditation too. Nonetheless, if you do this practice, you may be able to spot how the sabotage is occurring, where you're doing that to yourself, and it may become less necessary. That particular Gek or Parchi is going to be caught in your channels. Probably, well, just depending on where it is in you will depend on in what part of the body. There are methods for working with it directly, but you need a greater skill at this to actually accomplish those methods. You need a pretty good skill at GOM, probably what most people would develop in a year or so, in order to master working with emotions. And you need to be able to master, or at least get reasonably good at working with emotions in order to approach this Tsalung method, because it squeaks. Which means whatever is bothering you is going to get stronger as it unravels if you do it in a very direct manner. It won't get stronger as it unravels if you just use GOM. And it will unravel eventually. But the speedier methods tend to have side effects. So sorry. If it's still bothering you after you've been doing this for a while and have learned working with emotions well enough to make it work at least much of the time, then I would recommend you do the inner body Rushen, which is a much more direct way of getting some of these Geks and Parchis out of your channels.
Is there a technique to teach you to unfocus your eyeballs?
Yes. On a day when there are no clouds in the sky, go sit outside or at an open window in your meditation posture and rest your eyes on the distant above the horizon. Going to do this in a high place is best. However, at the seaside will do, or the lake shore if it's a really big lake without mountains behind it, like the Great Lakes. What you want to be is at enough of a height that the horizon is slightly below the point of your nose when you sit in posture. And relax your eyes on the infinite open blue sky. Practice that. You can find a place like that even if it's up on your roof. By practicing that, it will begin over time to assist you in relaxing your eyeballs. If you live near the shore, go down to an overlook and sit there. Look above where the water is into the sky. While doing this practice, do not allow the sun to fall on your eyeballs. Put on a hat. Use a beach umbrella. I don't care if it's winter. No sun on the eyeballs. You can damage them. When you do this, at some point, it's quite probable that your irises will dilate. This lets in more light, and if the sun comes directly in, so you don't do this staring at the sunset, watching the pretty sunset, you can actually either damage your retina or cause heat illnesses in the body. You can also do this by closing very heavy curtains into complete darkness in a room at night, and with your eyes open, sitting and relaxing them in the darkness. So whichever of these two is easier for you to achieve, this can help you to relax the lenses of your eyes, the focusing mechanism.
Oh, I had it. What if our mind somehow holds the view during meditation, but our body refuses to?
I do not understand your question. Are you having trouble sitting up? Next question.
Is it helpful to say a mantra before meditation, like you do at the beginning of the teachings?
Yes, especially Guru Yoga mantra. Prior to meditating, you should always take refuge. Arise, Bodhisattva. Prior to any practice, before a session, you don't try to do this with every quick glance. Before a session, refuge, arise, Bodhisattva, and pray to your teacher for their blessing on your meditation. In Mahamudra, we don't have pet. What we do for Nyam's stuck meditative experience in Mahamudra is pray to our root guru out loud using the speech chakra of intent, that their blessing will enter us and get us past the Nyam. And that also works. It's got to be out loud though, so it's not a group practice thing unless the whole group happens to be doing that. It's slower though. Pet's really fast.
Would it be helpful to create a recording of some sort to surprise you with pet while practicing?
No. Next.
There it is. Because there was a good question. Give me a moment while I find the question I had queued up next.
This view, tawa, this tawa, Gompa and Sopa, is the main vision of all Buddhas of the 3 times. All of those who have come before, all of those who come after, and all of those arising in the current moment. It is the highest of the vehicles, the pinnacle of the 9th yana. It is the essential path of the heart drops, Nintik Dorje Ningpo. On it, nothing is beyond it. There would be no superior teaching. The meaning expounded in this instruction most surely is the spirit of all the esoteric teachings, self-secret, held by lineage. By the manifestation power of awareness, the terton of the Dharmakaya, this text has arisen. Although I don't know diddly squat about this. I had a really good teacher and a really good text. This is not like the ordinary treasures of gold and jewels. For they're useful around here for a little while, but not really. Lots of rich people are miserable. This is beyond that. The three words that strike the heart. It is the heart testament of Garab Dorje. Words from the heart. Words from my heart. This is the deep meaning of the heart teachings. Do not let the meaning fade away. Do not leave it lying beside the road and forget about it. You may not find it again. Do practice. Words spoken from the heart are charged with significance. Do not allow it to dissipate. It is the words of my heart, the lifeblood of my heart, and of my teacher and lineage. Practice. Did you find your question?
I did. When Tawa is always recognized, how do realizations arise?
That is the realization. What on earth are you talking about?
That's how the question is worded.
I don't know what you're looking for that you think is a realization. Perhaps you'd explain.
What is more vital, compassion or intellect in this practice?
Compassion. Not compassion. Ninji, great-heartedness. I don't care if you're smart. You don't need intelligence for this. It's not about thinking. I've taught Dzogchen to people with mental retardation. And they've done surprisingly well. He couldn't do mantra because he couldn't remember them. He could remember to look at his mind once he'd seen it. You don't need intellect for this. Nice if you have it. Intellect's always a fun toy. But don't get stuck in it. Next.
I was just pondering a question somebody asked in the comments. What if no nyams show up?
Don't worry about it. Means you're not actually sitting there practicing. They're pretty much inevitable. You're gonna trance out if you sit there and actually do the practice.
Is substance not first conceived by thoughts and then made matter? Doesn't substance affect thoughts as much as thoughts affect substance?
Form? Substance as in metal? You come back and ask me that after you've read a bit in quantum physics. Next.
When it's like kid sense, as you were talking about earlier, is your practice complete?
No. But it's going damn well. You're still at the point where if you stop, it'll wear off. An oopsie that many of us have personal familiarity with.
Is awareness itself made of light?
Light is an analogy for awareness. The word awareness, rig pa. The awareness by which the seer sees that innate vitality of aliveness is called clear light. It is not made of anything. It is neither wavelengths nor photons. Next.
There's some more general questions.
Yeah, try a few.
Okay. Let's see. I would like to know if there is any group that follows the teachings of this lineage in South America. I believe there's many people there.
Yeah. Contact Martin. He should know most about it. Norbu Rinpoche's groups. Norbu Rinpoche and my teacher Wangdor Rinpoche had the same teacher. So it's the same lineage, but there are some differences in interpretation between my teacher and Norbu Rinpoche. They were good friends, but when ticked off at him, he used to call my teacher an old cowboy. Norbu Rinpoche was a very well-educated, from a high family. My teacher, Wangdor Rinpoche, was an old cowboy, old herding family, nomads. Never finished college. The Chinese came before he could finish getting his Kempo degree. Not a scholar, cave yogi. So there will be differences in approach among those people, but not differences really in lineage. It's still Nyingma. It's still pretty much the same. So look for Norbu Rinpoche's people in South America. If you're in Brazil, Annie Jampa, old cave yogi from the caves in Solpema, is in northern Brazil and teaches. She's wild. Don't go making a commitment to her until you've gotten to know her. She has a very distinct personality. Not the same as mine, but we're sisters. Same teacher, same lineage. She was also a student of Chaktutoku. So again, there will be difference in method. Each teacher has their own way of expressing it, even within the same lineage. Like Wangdor Rinpoche, nomad herdsman background, and Norbu Rinpoche, high-level, aristocratic, well-educated family background, intelligentsia. The way of expression will be different. The lineage and what is being expressed will be the same. Next.
Can you give some instructions on making a meditation sash?
It should be made of, depending on if you're a nun or monk, in which case it should be saffron-colored cotton, relatively heavy cotton, or a nagmo, in which case tradition is red raw silk, silk that it has been harvested without killing the silkworm. It's called brie. However, the material of which it's made is not that important, and I have used synthetics, cottons, silks, silky-like, fake raw silk, and all sorts of things, and it works just fine. You can even use a particularly long guitar strap. It needs to be long enough to reach from the top of your top knot, which is probably a couple of inches above the top of your head, to the floor, twice your length, including your hair. If you've got a big afro, it'll be even longer. because you're supposed to include the hair. It should be the width of your palm and stiff enough that it doesn't roll. So you can put lining or facing inside. And then you just tie it wherever you want it for wherever you're going to put it. There are different embroideries that are occasionally put on one of the ends, such as a blue swastika. We had them long before the Nazis. They're ours, give it back. I mean the Tibetans and the Bon. They have beautiful symbolic meaning. However, if you feel uncomfortable with them, a double dorje will fulfill the same function. Next.
How best to practice in retreat? What is your schedule recommendation?
So, summer retreat schedule, as it is now summer here in the Northern Hemisphere, is up on the website. And please use it as a reference. I'm going to give you winter retreat schedule because that's not up on the website. If someone would like to type it up and send it to me, I'll vet it and put it up on the website because it's winter in South America and in Africa and in Australia, where some of you may be. And if not, winter is coming in the Northern Hemisphere. In winter, you still get up before dawn. Generally, you fill a very good thermos with tea before you go to bed, so it's still hot when you do that. You warm yourself with a cup of tea and practice until dawn. Dawn is late in winter, so that can be quite a long session there. The quiet time before bird song. You get up and do this. Once it's getting time for the sun to come up, you stop, you make a fire, you light the stove, you make your breakfast, you eat your breakfast. After breakfast, you have another session until probably about 11 o'clock in the morning, when it's time to prepare lunch. Lunch is your main meal of the day, and you want to eat it around noon. So give yourself time to cook something nice. It should be your main large meal. Vegetables, lentils, a grain, whatever you're going to do. After lunch is the time in winter for getting stuff together. If you gotta do a laundry, you gotta sweep up a bit, clean up after lunch, read a little book. You probably don't need a nap in winter. After your after lunch full of the main meal of the day food, around 2 or 3 p.m., depending on your latitude, you make a session. This session in the middle of winter, if you're at a fairly far latitude, will last until just before sunset. At sunset, you'll stop, have a cup of tea, and then make another session after sunset. When you finish that session, you reheat leftovers from lunch, adding liquid to be a soup. You drink that, enjoy that, make your last session, and go to bed. So there's 2 sessions after dark and 1 before dawn. Then there's 1 after dawn before noon, and one in the late afternoon. It depends on when the sun is going down. If you can get 2 in the afternoon with a cup of tea in the middle, go ahead. But usually around 3 o'clock, when it's time to start up from a noon lunch again, the light is already yellow in winter. And sunset comes around 5. So you really have about time for one good session. If you are doing Dzogchen, each one of the sessions I've stated should be broken in 2 pieces, especially in the beginning, maybe even 3 pieces, with a cup of tea in between, a go for a piss in between, a get up and stretch in between. Because in Dzogchen, in the beginning, you want more frequent short sessions. Whereas if you're doing sadhana, you can sit for long sessions. So again, that's how you modify it depending on what you're doing. And that's the winter schedule. Any questions on that?
On the retreat schedule?
Yes.
I'm checking comments. I don't see any real questions about details.
Okay, I'll get winter schedule. If somebody happens to type that out from hearing it or whatever for me, just to save me a little effort, I'll try to get winter schedule up on the website. If you compare it with summer, summer has a longer day, less stuff happening after dark. You end up eating your supper at sunset, because sunset's a lot later, like 8 or 9 o'clock. You definitely have a couple of sessions after lunch with a tea break in between. That's summer session, and it's by the length of the day. Tibetans didn't have wristwatches. Everything's by where the sun is. Your meals are at dawn, high noon, and you usually have a little snack with tea at sunset if you're going to have supper later. Next question.
Body posture, bond pose, put left leg on top. Is this a mistake, or are leg positions interchangeable?
It depends on gender. If you are female and have your channels in the typical female pattern, among the bon, left leg is on top. Now, I know women who study bon who happen to have their channels in the male pattern, reversed, and they're not butch. So it's not about whether you choose to live as male or female. It's not about whether you're a dyke or straight. It's not about where you are on the spectrum of masculinity and femininity. It's just a physiological where your channels are.
There is one question. How long is a session if you're following a retreat schedule?
If you're practicing Dzogchen, it's about 10%, 7% longer than is comfortable. You figure it out. It varies person to person. So that's why I said some of these, what I gave in retreat as a single session. If you're new at this, you're going to break it into much more pieces with little breaks in between. Get up, stretch, go outside, look at the view, come back, sit down again. You see, if you try to make a session too much longer than you really can, you're just going to sit there, think about what you're going to cook for lunch. I mean, you might as well get up and do something. But don't stop meditating when you get up and do something. Gom. Next.
Can you practice Sanction without having done the preliminaries?
Sure. If you can practice Dzogchen, you can practice Dzogchen. You don't need my permission. It's your own nature you're looking at, your own mind. You have every right to look at your own mind. It's yours. course you can. Now, you certainly may. Can you? Try it and see. If you can't, have some preliminaries. Most people can. Some people benefit from the preliminaries. I had to do them twice, all 100,000, because the first time didn't work, according to my dear teacher. So some people benefit greatly from them. Usually, he didn't even make me do them until I wasn't getting it. I'd done them already. But when I wasn't getting Dzogchen, it's like, oh, it didn't work, do it again. So, see for yourself whether you can. You certainly may. Next.
Martin just said he's doing translations for the retreat schedule to go up on the website.
Oh, great. Tell him to, wait, let me look at the English the way it's gotten typed before it goes up in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
But probably it's right. Actually, Martin, you've been out there, you've made retreats. Go ahead and put it up. You know what I'm talking about. You vet it. Anything left?
A number of questions left. Some of them cover the same ground.
Okay,
that we
look for
already-
new ones.
Yeah. Can you, I'll wait till you finish swallowing. Can you tell us, please tell us about your Tibetan name, Yeshiketa, how to pronounce it, what it means, how you received it.
I received it when I took refuge with Lama Thupten Yeshi at the end of the first Kopan course I did, way back when I was just a kid. I think I might have been 20? Just a little one. Yeshi is primordial wisdom. K is speech. Tup is can, capable. Primordial wisdom can talk, is what it means. I've never seen a need to get a new one. It seems to fit. Next.
Can the practice of Trekcha alone lead you to full liberation? And if so, then what is the purpose of visualization, such as Rushen?
The practice of Trekchu alone can certainly lead you to liberation, totally and all the way, full, even to rainbow body. However, if you get hung up in that practice and you can't really get something working, Rushen gets your shorts off the bit of wire of the fence you're climbing over. It just is, Rushen is to unhook your shorts. Not everyone needs to do Rushen. But if you feel stuck, if Trekcha's not quite doing it for you, a Rushen can help. Different ones of the Rushens can help you get over certain places. The speech Rushen, speech is the chakra of intent, can be very helpful for your focus and concentration, for your being able to follow through on your intent to practice, on your decision. If you're having trouble with the follow-through, speech Rushen. When you've got a lot of geks and parchis interfering with your practice, inner body Rushen is very effective to get those out. But I won't teach it to anyone who hasn't done working with emotions, And I won't teach working with emotions to anyone who hasn't gotten at least a basic grounding in the nature of mind and tawa, so that they can, and gompa and sopa, so that they can see the nature of thought while thinking, at least occasionally. And that's because side effects. I don't want anybody going crazy, and I'm not sitting on you to fix it if you do, if you were, in the retreat hut next door. So I'm a little bit more cautious working long distance like this. I don't want too many people flipping out and going nuts. Which you can with these practices, guys. Dharma is not safe. Nobody ever said it was. Jumping out the window of a house is not safe. However, when the house is on fire, it may be less dangerous than staying in there. Consider the suffering of samsara. I would say that Dharma is safer than not Dharma. Next question.
What are your suggestions on practicing sexuality and Dzogchen?
Practice morality in your sexuality, no raping. Consenting adults only. Professionals are fine, but don't try to bushwhack anybody into it. Professionals have made their own choices, but I would be a little careful to make sure they weren't being trafficked. Generally, do not abuse people non-consensually through your sexuality. And if you hold relationship vows, whatever they are, monogamy, condom use outside of monogamy, whatever you've promised with whatever partners you have, keep it. Keep those promises. And pay a little attention to whatever promises whoever you're considering having sex with is also holding, and be aware that they lie. So a married guy who says it's okay, my wife's okay with being poly, get her phone number. Ask her. And if it's Tibetan and has short hair, ask around if it's a monk or not, regardless of what they tell you, and don't be having monks. 7 years bad luck, take the cherry off a monk. Don't do it.
Can you tell us about Ekadzadi and her relation to Dzogchen?
She is the protectress of Dzogchen, queen of the Mamos. Not particularly a safe protector to cultivate. Because if you have a hindrance, no matter how fond of that hindrance you may be, even to the point of having married it, she will remove hindrances from your life. Next.
You said Dzogchen is 3,000 years old?
30,000.
30,000. Can you explain or say more?
Bond lineage.
Bond lineage.
Buddha before this one.
Okay. Will you be doing the emotions teaching this year? You've done it twice at least.
I've done it twice, and I will do it again. Whether I do it before January 1st is unclear at the moment. but I will do it again relatively soon. It'll depend on how many people are signed up for it. And if you're new to Trekje, to Gom, you better get good at it by the time you do the emotions retreat, because you need SOPA. You apply SOPA to the emotions. So you better have at least an inkling of what it is by your own experience, even if you haven't developed absolute certainty yet. Just to do the emotions retreat. Certain practices build on other practices. This is the basic one.
Since Dzogchen is the highest yana, are lower yanas, i.e. visualization, not as good for attaining Buddhahood?
They're just as good. They may not be as fast. The best one for you for attaining Buddhahood is the one you can and will do. That's the key. Can and will do. Do that one. It's the best one for you. Dharma's not a bathrobe. One size does not fit all.
Can you explain the importance of keeping the eyes open during practice?
You continue your practice when you get up and walk around. You don't make a difference between the meditation on your cushion and the meditation moving about. If you were to meditate with your eyes closed and you got up with your eyes closed, you would probably bump into furniture. So therefore you keep them open. It's to avoid bumping into the furniture, of course. Practical. Actually, there's more esoteric reasons in other and different practices and advanced practices, but I'm not going into that there.
One other practice question, off-cushion practice to check for tawa. I didn't get the quick glance check. Is that a peripheral vision check?
No, it's a mental check. Glance was an analogy. Just as when you drive, you glance at the road, or you glance at the map, that's an analogy for the quickness looking there but not staring at it. So it's not actually an eye glance. It is a shift of awareness from point focus to the open vastness of natural mind. Quickly, without grabbing it or attempting to dwell on it. Next.
I think that's the,
Okay.
this is almost 2.5 hours.
Yeah, but we want to do the best we can to satisfy people with these teachings. The rest is up to you guys. Practice. Ge wa di nyor du da chi chi sala go pa shu. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for your practice. If any of you are interested in merging your practice with one of the yogis, because you're at a stage in your life right now where you have more money than time, where you are in your career and the raising of a family and shaking loose $25 a month is a lot easier than shaking loose several hours a day. We have a program where we match up Western meditators who don't have time to really meditate as much as they'd like, and Tibetan meditators up in the caves and up in the mountains who don't have the money to go into retreat for as long as they'd like because they need to buy food. We match them up, solving each other's problems. And so the results of the practice are also merged. If you're interested in doing this, in sponsoring one of the yogis, or yoginis, actually, they're mostly women, please send me an email about that, and we'll sort it out how best for you. If you wish to offer dana for these teachings, if you have enjoyed them, there's a button on my website. Please feel free to visit it. And if you have been, Martin, translate this, if you have been receiving these teachings in Spanish, please support your translator, otherwise you would not be receiving these teachings in Spanish. There is either a button on the website, or someone will write up in here. We're putting a button on the website. I don't know if it got there yet, but I think it did.
It is up there.
It is up, good. There's a button on the website for the translator. Please use it, even if you heard this in English, if you appreciate for Bodhisattva reasons that people whose English is not to the level of yours were able to hear and understand it with simultaneous translation. Please support that. Thank you for your attention. And in advance, thank you for your practice. We are complete. May all beings be liberated.
Okay, Facebook no longer live. And now YouTube.